Thank you. My name is Tamara Mendelson. I'm an evolutionary biologist at UMBC and a proud member of Group 3. And I should preface this by saying that we had a self-identified information theory evangelist in our group. And so much of our time was joyfully engaging with the evangelist, the good reverend, asking, why should we care about information theory? How does this help us? He had some backup with some other information theorists, but what we really decided was much of what Yvonne already mentioned. So we skipped that part. Okay, so we went to the questions, what lessons can we learn? And we definitely agreed that there should be some sort of compendium, textbook, online resource that tells people about the success stories, about specific examples of how information theory has broken open a problem in biology. One example that was raised is the Chong et al. Paper. That was really about how technology allowed information theory to be applied to biological problems. Any example of how information biology pushed forward a problem in biology, specifically as a compendium, I think would help making it sexy, if you will. And I study sexual attraction, so I feel that I can speak with some authority on that. How can we train future generation biologists? One thing we discussed is training a future generation. Is that the same as training the older generation, such as myself? So are we teaching young dogs? Are we teaching old dogs? Is it the same thing? And we also came up with, and I think that was Peter, who came up with the same idea, landed on the same idea of a module. Peter believes this can be done in 2 weeks. I think maybe someone said 6 weeks, something along those lines that would be introduced into introductory statistics courses where these concepts would be introduced alongside probability. When you're already teaching probability introductory statistics, why not introduce this as a 2 to 3 week module? And again, examples will always be helpful for biologists. I will say that, possibly for every human, really. And we'd compare then information theoretical approaches to other approaches of prediction and statistics, and what are the benefits of each. One challenge of information theory is if you don't have all the probability distributions, this is my understanding, then what do you do when you don't have all the measurements you need? All right. And same conclusion, Yvonne, that there aren't a lot of textbooks available. Our evangelist is writing one right now, right? So that should be out. Although we did talk about Bialik's book, that came up a couple times in our session. I don't know if it came up in anybody else's session, but that book came up a couple times as being a very good resource. But again, then putting together a compendium of examples with some primer as part of a module would be great. This just came up over and over again as communicating the stories and the success stories for buy-in. I don't know how that really relates to this question of a nationwide center, but we just kept saying it, so I guess the scribe just kept writing it down. I guess that's it. All right. Yes. So another question, so success keeps coming up. Yes. The question is success with respect to who's defining what success is? Yes. Right. Good question. To me, it's solving a problem. So if someone poses a problem, an intractable problem, or just a really hard one, and information theory has solved it, and the more interesting the problem, the better, and the more wide-reaching the problem, the better. But any biological problem, I guess, since this meeting is about biology, any biological problem that can be solved that's how I think of it.
Or an information theory problem.
Right. So that would be
or an information theory problem which biology leads you to, like high-dimensional fractal spaces that are packing spheres. That's the problem that my work has led to, and that's a challenge problem.
Yeah. I'll offer a quick perspective myself. I think that, I can't speak for whether it's a theorist or a biologist, but I know for myself, whatever I am, the Chong paper and then work that's come out after that has certainly helped me sharpen certain questions that I ask about the biological system, and I would call that a resounding success. And I think that there are many people who feel that way, so it seems like I'm not alone in that. And so I think that if you have something where you don't necessarily solve a problem, because that's a huge problem to say understand cell signaling, which, okay, someday we may do that, but to make, progress in not just in formulating the problem, in conceptualizing it, in quantifying something. And there I think that, it may be hard to develop a metric, but I, for myself, to the extent that I as a scientist can be any judge of this, it's been extremely helpful. Maybe not long term, maybe not that's the final answer to anything, but for now it's pushing me forward. And that I call a huge success. Yeah, that paper's been cited a lot. Yeah, Ray did a great job.
One of the ways in which one can measure impact is not in how well we can answer questions, but rather how well we can ask them. In fact, half the time asking the right questions is half the science, or 75% of the science. And one of the things that information theory is good at is actually allowing you to formulate questions in a more concise and quantitative manner. And perhaps, that's more of an advantage as being able to answer tons of new questions. In this case, or let's say old questions. Is information theory allowing us to ask new questions that we couldn't possibly ask before?
Tim? Allowing or prompting, I guess. One brief one, because time's running out for the time running out group.
Yeah, I mean, there's another question, a metric for success, and is you have to decide what the meaning of life is, and that's as a double entendre, right? And so you have to ask the questions also as to whether alternative approaches to asking those questions could be more successful in information theoretic. And that's really a budgetary question that gets kicked back to NSF, right? Because one argument from the synthetic biology community is that you will understand more about the rules of life if you create your own life form in the laboratory. And we can set aside all descriptive biology completely, just get rid of all the stuff that we do now to study the details of what life, prebiotic chemistry contingently created, and what managed to survive meteorite impacts and all the rest of it. So, I keep in mind that that's going to get you into a big fight between various different communities who are also going to tell you that they're going to be able to answer better than alternative methods. Their approach will answer the big question about what is the meaning of life. And so, but yeah, I agree with you. You need to ask. Technology to ask two questions is more important perhaps than the technology to approach to answer them, but there are other ways of also creating new questions to ask.